consecutive real quadratic fields with large class numbers. And actually, the very last topic for lunch that we heard was kind of motivated by the same question that was about consecutive fields with this rationality. So this is just about I didn't class numbers. So this is just about class numbers, but and I will tell you what was the motivation and what I'm trying to do. But first, so that I don't forget, let me say that the main result in here is a joint result with a bunch of people. So it's joined with Cherubini, Pazzari, Granville, and Yatsina. So and you may recognize some of these people. So obviously Andrew Granville is Andrew Granville. Pablo Yatsina is the guy who didn't get his offer here. But he'll give a talk tomorrow. So you can look forward to seeing him at least virtually. And Cherubini and Pazzari are my postdocs, or rather my former postdocs. So, actually, all of them are former postdocs. So Cherubini is now in Rome, Pablo Yatsina is in Finland, and Pazzari is in California at the Americans. Anyway, so I want to show you sort of the result I want to be talking about is contained in the title. We constructed for arbitrary k, we constructed k consecutive real quadratic fields which all had large class numbers. And I will get to explaining sort of the proof of that result. But in the first half of the talk, I want to talk about what motivated us towards this construction, and that is thinking about families of quadratic fields. And also, I have some sort of secret purpose in giving this first half of the talk, although it's not so secret when I'm telling you in the beginning, which is to sort of motivate some of the people here in the room, or to back some of the people here in the room to work also on these generalized families of quadratic fields. Although I realize that maybe it's not so easy as I naively imagined. So let me start with these families of quadratic fields. And yeah. So, as everyone in the room, I want to understand the distribution of class numbers, because that's a super important topic. As we all know, it's very hard. For example, I don't want to touch the class number one problem at all. That's why I'm talking about large class numbers. But sometimes we can say some things. So, for example, as we have already seen in this conference, well, if we have imaginary quadratic fields. And by the way, is it okay if I write like this? Even at the back? Yeah. So tell me how. So for imaginary quadratic fields, we know quite a lot, right? So we know that there are only finitely many imaginary quadratic fields in class number one. We know that the class numbers grow with the discriminant, and we have quite a precise understanding of the speed of the growth and so on. So everything is very nice here. And then there are some families. For example, then there is this Cholas or Yokos families. So the Cholas family is U square root of 4t squared plus 1, or the Yokos family, which is Q square root of t squared plus 4. So here I'm already moving to the real quadratic world, which will be the setting for all of the above. And then here t is just some parameter, so t is a positive integer. And so if I assume that it's 4t squared plus 1, or this t squared plus 4 is square free, so that this is like an honest field, then again, as t grows, the fields in such a family behave kind of like these imaginary quadratic fields. There are only finitely many number fields in such a family in class number one. And these were determined by Biro, Andrash Biro, around 2003 or something, determined which of these fields have class number one. And also the class numbers in these families grow. So, and That's me. So and the class number is grown, and that follows quite easily from the class number formula. So let me write it here. So class number formula, as most of us know, gives us an expression for the class number. So when we denote the class number of such a field is h q square root of t, and that's given in terms of the discriminant over logarithm of the fundamental unit times the other delta. So delta, let me know. Right? The delta is the discriminant of the fields. Delta is either t or 4d, and then it has class number. So what can we say about the terms in the class number formula? So this is essentially d, so that grows with t linearly. For the L value is bounded logarithmically in terms of d, so we don't have to care about too much about that. So this is sort of logarithmic. And I'll be more precise about that later, but for now I'll just talk very roughly. And so the main thing that determines the size of the class number as t is growing is the size of the fundamental unit. So we control the size of the regulator or of the fundamental unit, and that's the magic of these families. Because, for example, if t is 4t squared plus 1, so we are in this family. So here, of course, b is congruent to 1 not 4. So in principle, we have 1/2 in the regular integers, but the fundamental unit doesn't have this halves, and it is just epsilon t is 2 plus square root of 4 squared plus 1. And yeah, so one can see very easily that this, in fact, is norm -1 because the norm is 40 squared minus 40 squared plus 1, so that's -1. And what is the size of this? Well, this is 2t, this is 2t as well. So this is 4t. And t is just the square root of t, so this is essentially 2 square root of t. Anyway, if we are taking the logarithm of that, then this is essentially just log of t, and up here we have t to 1/2. So this log term is negligibly small, and the class number will be in the problem. Yep. So yeah, so this is all very clear and probably known to most of the people in the room, right? So good. And so the same story holds in this family as well. And in fact, Dal and Mansuri made this much more precise some 5 years ago or so. They determined very precise asymptotics of the growth of the class numbers in these families. And for example, so very precise results. E.g., so they looked at the number of t's in one of the families. The number of t's they find that the class number of 2 square root of 4 squared plus 1 is greater than some constant times square root of t over t. Yeah, so this as we discussed is roughly the size of the class number, and so in their work they actually had to care about the L value, and they constructed some random model for the distribution of these L values, and from that random model they were able to say such precise results on these distributions and a bunch of things.
Yeah, I have a naive question.
What does this say?
Yes.
You didn't complete your sentence.
I did. So I wanted to say vaguely. So they obtained very precise results, including results on the number of such keys.
Oh,
yeah,
that's telling us what the answer is.
Yeah, I can tell you.
Maybe probably the bracket would have made it a little bit.
So
The bracket is could have made it a little bit better. Anyway,
so
the bracket, second bracket, or third is Yeah, that's fine, that's okay.
What
The bracket, like number of t such that this, it's, you want this plus,
no, no, sure.
that's what I.
Sure. Yeah, but I didn't tell you the results. So if you want the result, look at the paper of that. Okay. Because I mean, that's not the topic of my talk today, and it's somewhat technical, so I don't want to get into that.
So I have a light question. You said you can ignore the L value because it's like logarithm in D, but so is the.
No. So for this, they will for this kind of result, you absolutely cannot ignore. No. So here I was just talking very heuristically. And yeah. So of course, once you know that the epsilon is logarithmic, then suddenly you need to worry about the other. And we will worry about the other. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I know that I'm speaking loosely at the moment, and sorry about that. I thought I would start sort of gently. All right, so good. So we have seen at least these two families where things work quite nicely. Now I will show you many more families where things work as nicely as here, or essentially as nicely as here. And these families are coming from the continued fractions. So yeah, so for now let me take these two ring of 4 so that I know that the ring of integers k is just z square root of t. And then as I tried to explain here, at the first order of approximation, the main thing that determines the size of the class number is the size of the unit. And while talking about continued fractions, is that of course the continued fraction of the square root of t gives us the unit. So epsilon d is given by the continued fraction. So if I take the continued fraction of square root of t and I write the coefficients as u0, u1 up to us. So s is the length of the period, and this is the period. So then from this infinite periodic continued fraction, I define the convergence, which are just pi over qi, and these are the cutoff continued fractions of pi. So yeah, this defines these pi's and qi's so that they are co-prime. And then this below the fundamental unit is just p s minus 1 plus q s minus 1 squared. So we cut off the continued fraction just before the end of the period and we get the fundamental unit. And that means that if you have short continued fraction with small coefficients, then you should have a small fundamental unit, and that should mean that you should have large class numbers. And something very similar holds in D is 1, 4. Let me just quickly mention this, which again, almost everyone here knows probably. We just take omega t, 1 plus square root of t over 2, and we take the continued fraction for this. And this continued fraction gives us the unit in a very similar. All right. So if we look at these examples, which I just erased, or I have this one here. So for example, in this example, so here D is 1 with 4, so we need to take 1 plus square root of 4t squared plus 1 over 2. And if you compute, then the continued fraction is just t comma 1 comma 1 comma 2 plus 1. And so we can see that indeed I was applying, and this continued fraction is very short, and that gives you this fundamental unit. In the other family with t squared plus 4, the continued fraction is even shorter, and the period length is just 1, whereas here it is. So motivated by this, sometimes ago I thought that it may be a good idea to call families with sort of suitable continued fraction structure like this continued fraction families. So continued fraction family of real quadratic fields. So of real quadratic fields q square root of t. So what I want from these fields in this family, I want these square free. And I want that if t is 2, 3, not 4, then the continued fraction for square root of t is just 4 of square root of t, and then some u1 up to s minus 1, and then twice this first coefficient bar. And similarly, in the case is 1 with 4, let me write it. So far I haven't said anything. Any d has such a continued fraction, but here I'm taking the family with the period length fixed and all these coefficients u1 up to s minus 5. Yes, so sort of I'm doing precisely the thing that happened here is that, of course, the first and last coefficient of the continued fraction are going to vary, but I'm fixing the period length and I'm fixing all these middle coefficients. Okay, that's easy. Yeah.
That example, does it fit in your definition? I don't think it.
Yes, well, so I didn't write what happens in the case these one. Yeah. But yes, if I did write it, then so the shape is sort of precisely the same. You take the continued fraction of this omega, then you have this floor, and then at the end you have twice u0 plus 1. Yeah.
You fix all those. Do you know D exists?
Excellent question. I will answer that question in 3 minutes. But first, I want to start. So, as you know, when I say 3 minutes, it will be 7, but I will get there. So, yes, I will answer the question whether such T's exist. But first, I want to make the I want to make explicit the observation that in such a family you indeed have the class number small. So you indeed have the unit small. So as we see here, the unit is given like this. And from this definition, as these convergence, we have some references for these PIs. And the references are PI plus 1 is UI plus 1, PI plus PI minus 1, and the same thing for this. And so, of course, these recurrences are completely general for any continued fraction. They have nothing to do with square roots. Well, so what these recurrences imply for the size of this epsilon t? Well, so this epsilon t, if you start sort of unpacking, so if you start unpacking using the references, you quite quickly get that epsilon t is greater than the floor of omega t times the product of ui's 1 to s minus 1, where I will be denoting so omega d is either square root of d or 1 plus square root of d over 2, so that I'm covering both cases. And on the other hand, if you want an upper bound, then we just say that it's product ui plus 1 and m from 1 to s minus 1. Yeah, so if you haven't seen this before, then it's a fun little exercise to just check from these recurrences that this is. Good, and now if we are in such a family, well, then I was assuming that all these ui's are constant. So this product is constant, and this product is constant. And so indeed, I see that this epsilon d is growing with omega d, which is essentially square root of t. So I see that in such a family, epsilon d is growing as square root of t with the implied constants here depending on the specific family, and therefore exactly the same argument as I was saying here applies. And in such a family, one should have the class number of the size square root of t divided by log t from the class. All right, so as Larry asked, the question is, do such families exist or do they contain number fields? And so for this, bunch of people gave the answer. So this was studied already in Prof book. And then the theorem I'm going to mention now is 1988. So again, I fix this S and this Y's. And so I have a well-known necessary condition for this continued fraction, which is that these coefficients must be symmetrical. So I must always have that U1 is US minus 1, U2 is US minus 2, and so on. So I need to estimate that here, such that UI equals US minus I for all I. So that's necessary condition. Then this equation, let me call it star, this equation star has infinitely many solutions with square root D. So that's what we want, that in the family there are infinitely many number fields, provided that there is some parity condition that must be satisfied. So let me write it down, but that's very important for the talk. So the condition is QS minus 2, so that's one of these convergent, or whatever, QS minus 2 squared minus negative 1 BS over QS minus 1 is 1. So at least one of these two integers must be even. And of course, here I have some fraction, but indeed this turns out to be integer using these formulae for this convergence. So provided that this parity condition is satisfied, then the family is an honest family which contains infinite many fields.
Except you don't know QS minus 2 in advance because of the root D.
Excellent question. I do, because if you look at these recurrences, and if you write down what the initial conditions are, then the initial conditions for these Qs are, and I didn't prepare this, so I hope I don't screw up, but I think it's something, so certainly it's something like this, and I think I have it correctly, but if not, then I'm slightly wrong. So the initial conditions are that Q0 and Q1 are just 1.
Use not E's.
So the Qs depend only on the U starting from U1. So that's strange. So maybe I should have so these recurrences maybe naturally start at negative 1, and I want Q0 is 1 and Q negative 1 is 0. This will this will be Q0 is 1, Q negative 1 is 0. And then if you check what is Q1 from this, that will be U1 plus 1 plus 0. So Q1 will be U1, and then Q2 will be whatever, U1, U2 plus 1. And you see that these QIs depend only on U1 and so on, and they don't depend on the D. That's very important. The P's depend on the D, and I can't say anything about them, but the Q's are same. Yeah, so I'm not cheating when we say this. But good that you are paying attention. All right, so this is like a sufficient condition, and in fact, it's a necessary condition as well. So let me maybe write it briefly. So else meaning that both of these numbers are odd, else star is no solutions even without the square root condition. Yeah, so it's if and only if you take such a sequence, you check this condition, and either there are infinitely many B's in the family, or there is no none at all. So that works very nicely. And in fact, it's even nicer, and I can give you explicitly the form of these B's, which looks very similar to for example, these, which were given by quadratic polynomial. So these solutions are explicit, and they look like that they depend on some parameter T, and D is just some quadratic polynomial with this leading coefficient being a square. And the other remaining thing in this equation, which is not determined, is this floor of square root of t. And the floor of square root of t, which is like the zeroth coefficient, is given by some linear polynomial. And I can take, for example, that t is at just 1. So this, now I can return to the square free assumption. So this gives me all the solutions to that equation, provided that this condition is okay. And then I want the square free values, and they are looking just for the square free values and quadratic polynomials. And we know that quadratic polynomials have a positive density of square free values, and that's it. So perfect. So is this clear? Yeah. So for example, I already gave you one example, but as another example, if we take square root of t squared minus 1, then this is the family t minus 1, 1, and t minus 1. Yeah, so this is a family which fits into this picture. It seems to me that these are very natural examples of families which behave very similarly as this t squared minus 1 or this Chowla and Yukoi family with 4t squared plus 1, and that sort of philosophically, whatever can be done for this Yokoi family or this Chowla family or this family should be possible to do for these more general families, or at least one should try to do it for these more general families. I'm just talking here. I actually did something in this spirit. So with Alex Dahl again, so that's the Dahl from the Dahl paper, which is erased. So we extended the result of Dahl and Ramzuri, which was determining the asymptotics of the growth of class numbers in this Chowla and Yukoi family to a general family like this. Sort of with essentially precisely the same proof as them once we had this sort of nice control of the size of the discriminant and of the size of the and let me maybe also briefly mention that sort of what was my original motivation is that in works with Valentin Blomer, I started looking at universal quadratic forms over number fields, specifically over real quadratic fields. And those who were here at the conference last year, I gave an online talk at this conference about that. And in that work with Valentin, we were constructing some real quadratic fields which required large ranks of these universal forms. And the constructions were sort of precisely based on such families with long continued fractions. So that's how I'm thinking about this. And if you will be here for Pablo's Zoom talk tomorrow, then we will talk about this. All right, so that was like the propaganda about families. And now let me move on to these consecutive. And this will be mostly independent from what I was telling you so far, although not entirely. So if you fell asleep, then now is the time to wake up again. So, consecutive. So, as we have seen actually in the previous talk, just before lunch, there is this Izuka conjecture, which is from some 6 years ago or something, and that says that for prime L, it's a conjecture, so maybe not necessarily prime even, for some L and K at least 1, there are infinitely many P's such that all the fields Q square root of, let me put D plus 1, Q square root of G plus 2, up to Q square root of plus K. So all these K consecutive quadratic fields, so in the conjecture, you can do it either for real quadratic or for imaginary quadratic. So all of these K fields have class number divisible by n. Yeah, so I prescribed that I want the class numbers divisible by some given integer, and I want a sequence of K consecutive guys like this. And there have been various results on this. So let me maybe only mention the result by Azizul Hock, who is organizing this conference. So Hock established this for not in such a setting, but for D plus 1, D plus 4, D plus 36, and D plus 100. Okay, so I saw his preprint on archive, and I was thinking, okay, I can't do anything about the divisibility of class numbers, but I can do something about large class numbers. And obviously, if the class numbers are divisible by some integer, then they must be at least as big as the integer. So I was thinking, maybe one could try to see if one can arrange that all these class numbers are bigger than this L or something like that. So what we need for that, as I explained already, to get that these fields have all large class numbers, I would need to know that all of these square roots have short continued fraction, so that they have a small fundamental unit, and then I have the large class number. So now I sort of similarly just want large class numbers without any divisibility. And for that, I need short continued fractions. And maybe somewhat surprisingly, this is possible to arrange. So after playing around a bit, one sees that if you take n of the form a squared j squared plus j, then square root of n has the continued fraction of the form aj, comma a, comma 2aj. So this is very short. And so by taking this aj to be divisible, let's say by k factorial, then by adding various j's to it, all of these consecutive fields will be of this shape, and indeed will have a short continued fraction. So the first idea for this that we had was to take d just to be n plus 1 up to n plus k, the whole thing squared. So then, indeed, d is divisible by any of the first k integers, and then d plus j, or j is 1 up to k, are of this form, and therefore have a short continued fraction. So this essentially works, and one can use it to show that these fields have class numbers larger than some bound. But the problem is that in the class number formula, we have the discriminant of the number field. And for the discriminant, that's of course not just this d plus j, but it's the square free part of that. And here I have this n to vary, but that's a degree, whatever, 2k polynomial. And we don't know at all that the degree 2k polynomials has square free terms. So this semi-works, semi-fails because of this square freeness issue. But one can improve it. And that's what we did in the eventual paper. So if one improves it, taking d is m squared as k factorial square. Now this will be a quadratic polynomial in this m, and everything will work as well. So still t plus j have correct shape. And one can make things work. So in fact, here I'm simplifying a little. In fact, instead of this k factorial, one really wants to take the LCM of 1 up to k to get slightly better constants, but yeah, I mean, this is short notation, so for the talk, let me talk about this. So using this and this construction, we get our theorem. So that's, let me maybe not write all the names again. So it's Cherubini, Tazzari, Grandil, myself, and Yatsina. So we fix K at x1, and we claim that there are at least x to 1/2 minus epsilon integers t below x, such that all the class numbers of q square root of t plus k are greater than square root of t over log d times log d, and with the implied constant depending on k. So sorry, this is very long. Can you read it? So let me read it again. So what I'm saying is that for quite a lot of integers below x, I have that all of these quadratic fields have class number greater than some constant, where the constant is depending on k, times square root of d. So that should be there from the class number formula, divided by log d, that's for the regulator, times log d. And log d, I will say that a little more in a moment. Log d is essentially the largest possible value for the L function. So really up to this implied constant, this is optimal.
Could you clarify what the constant, which order the constant is?
Yes, it's something like
When does epsilon come in? I mean,
yeah. So epsilon is not too important, I think, and the constant is something like k to -5.
oh,
So it's not like that. But yeah, but I mean it does depend on k, sort of polynomial. Yeah, so the constant is something like that. Okay.
yeah, essentially, you really mean instead of greater or equal to, you mean greater than x to the 1/2 minus epsilon. Next line up there. It's on epsilon.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. Sure. Yes. Yeah. So here is another constant depending on epsilon.
I'm happy.
Yeah. And then epsilon does not enter here.
Is this effective?
Sorry?
Is this effective? Those equal zeros.
No. Those equal zeros. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, as I said, essentially this is the constant, and of course, I mean there is some absolute constant as well, but I don't think that we want to, but I think if you want it or had it, I think you could make it reasonably. Yeah. So yeah, so let me I want to explain the proof at least somewhat. And I mean the proof is not long. But so first of all, I want to comment on this optimality of this bound. So this is essentially optimal in the sense that we know under GRH, which is with Littlewood, that the class number is less than 4e to gamma plus maybe some little of 1 times square root of d log d log d. So under GRH, this is an upper bound, so we can't hope to get above that. And sort of on the other side, Lamzuri, building on the work of Montgomery and Weinberger, showed that there are keys such that the class number is at least 2 times e to gamma plus O of 1 times the same thing. Yeah, so Lamzuri or Montgomery and Weinberger established better results than us. They have sort of this bound is absolute and essentially as good as the theoretical possible bound, whereas we have this 8-5/2, but up to this term we have the correct order of magnitude for the class. So that's one comment I wanted to make about this. And second comment is that this is surprising. So we don't expect too many fields to have a small unit. So we expect that log epsilon d is less than log d only for something like for less than x to 1/2 plus epsilon values of d. So, and if we expect something like this, then I mean, there is some chance that you will get 2 consecutive ones, but already getting 3 consecutive ones should essentially never happen. And here it happens that we have k consecutive ones, where for all of them we have the fundamental unit so small. So this is surprising. The explanation is just that it works in this construction. And I don't know if there is some like more philosophical explanation for like why is this possible? All right. Okay, so I have maybe 5 minutes for a sketch of the proof. So I'm not sure how much I should do in 5 minutes. Yeah, so maybe let me quickly just repeat the class number formula. So that gives us at the class number of square root of m squared k factorial squared plus j. So this is the square root of the discriminant delta j divided by log epsilon delta j times the L value L1 chi delta j. Yeah, so delta j is, so this discriminant, this whole thing has discriminant delta j. So to estimate the class numbers, I need to control all of these 3 terms. So let me maybe not talk about the fundamental unit because that's easiest at the moment. As I explained, from the short continued fraction, I get the short but a small fundamental unit, and that's all I need, and there is nothing much to do there. Yeah, so let me maybe talk about the L value because I have sort of skimmed over that so far. So for the L value, I mean, as we know, for the M function, we have an Euler product. This is just product of 1 over 1 minus chi p negative s, where I multiply with difference p. And of course, this absolutely converges when s is greater, real part of s is greater than 1. And we want to somehow use it at 1, which is not possible, but Granville and Soundaraja tell us that you can truncate this product for most of characters. So Granville and Sound tell us that we can truncate this product at s squared. And let me maybe not state all of the, yeah, whatever. So for, let me state this for all but 2 over 7 plus little 1 of primitive characters modulo q, little q, where little q is less than big Q, we have that the L value is a truncation of the product L1 chi is just 1 plus little of 1 times the product, which is exactly the Euler product, e negative s, and here I'm multiplying over prongs up to log u to the 7. Yeah, so and of course the 7 and 2 over 7 are specific constants which we chose in their theorem for our purposes. But yeah, so what this tells us is that we can determine the L value just by looking at the beginning of the Euler product. And now we want to have large class numbers, which means large L values. And that means that we want to have these chi p's to be ones. So I'm always confused with you know, there are too many inverses, so I don't know which makes it large. Yeah, but yeah, small down here makes it large. So want chi p to be 1 for small price. Yeah, and we can arrange this by using bail-bound character sums and then patching everything together using the Chinese remainder theorem. And then we get that there is some congruence class modulo Q, where Q we take as the product of these small brands that we care about, such that in that congruence class, we indeed have this. And there are some technicalities that we have to omit some very small primes, which then contribute to error term and so on, but essentially this was. Yeah, and so then this gives the I don't have the theorem, but this gives the sort of double log lower bound for the LVAD. And then we need to care about this discriminant, which is the square free part of this, or 4 times the square free part of this. And for that, we just do some seeding argument to see that together, of course, with this condition on the primes, we can arrange that all the square divisors in here are just the square divisors of this k factorial, and therefore they are all small. So yeah, but maybe not to try that, but that's essentially it for the proof. And let me maybe finish with some naive questions. So one question is, I already mentioned this, but what is behind this like surprise that is possible to arrange for all these consecutive square roots we have shot quantity fractions? So why possible that square root of equals j have all short fractions? Of course, the answer could be that it works, but is there some deeper reason? Or possibly, I mean, can we replace this b plus j by some other function? Let's say j times b or whatever. You can, any function you can think of, and you can ask, so is it possible to arrange for all of these to have short fractions simultaneously? Or kind of course, you can try to prove that their class numbers are large using some other methods. So for what other sequences is this possible? And the most naive question, which I'm almost sure fails, but sort of is there maybe some algebraic structure behind this? Like, you know, here we were using the analytic class number formula, but could there perhaps be something algebraic behind these families or something that might allow one to check, for example, the divisibility as well? There, the answer is probably no. So thank you.
Any questions?
Yes. Not in 1 minute. No, but it is like 3 lines. So and it is in the paper, for example. So I can tell you after the talks, but I don't have that in my head right now.
Okay, so I have the question. What can you do it also in short interval?
Like the
Yeah, x plus h.
Yeah, where h would depend on x.
Yeah, h depends on x, but it is not on x.
So
You have to use something which
so I think so to some extent. So certainly certainly with this sort of worse approach, which wouldn't give this sort of optimal bounds, but would just be like sufficiently large class numbers. With that, you can do it, I think. And with this sort of optimality, I'm not sure, but yeah. Yes. No, I'm not using lower bound. I'm using upper bounds. I'm constructing these fields where this L1 chi is lower lower bound. Yes.
you are using
Yes. Mhm. I see. Mhm. Okay. Okay, thank you, thank you.
Any comments? No, let's thank the.